Alright guys, welcome back to part 4. The last thing we have to do is label this matrix, is label all of the rows. We've got all our rows filled in here with all of our transpositions, etc. But we've got to label them, and this is really the most important part of this. Most everybody gets this part. It's the labels on the outside is where people mess up, so really pay close attention, because this is what we use to analyze the music afterwards. So right here, we have this row here, P0, that means it's the prime row, and 0 means we have not transposed it by anything, okay? It's on the original pitch level that we first saw it. All of these, going left to right, are the prime row just transposed to different pitch levels. So every one of these over here, and I've already filled this in, these are all called P's. For instance, this row right here is the prime row, P0, that has been transposed up by 11 half steps. So we call it P11. This row right here is the prime row that has been transposed up by 1 half steps. So we call it P1, right? Here it is transposed up by 3 half steps, P3, etc. And if you recall in our very first video, maybe it was the second, I don't even recall at this point, we did transpose the prime row up by P4, by 4 half steps, and we got this. C, D flat, B, A, E flat, G sharp, F sharp, G, D, F, E, B flat. And if you look on our matrix here, that's what we got for P4, right? So that's why we call it these. They're all prime forms that have been transposed up by how many half steps. So these are all called P's. Okay, by the same token, over here, on the R side, okay, all of these are going to be called R. But the way these are getting their numbers from the very first one here, this R right here is P11 in retrograde. So we're going to call this R11, okay? Not R9, but R11. You get the numbers from this side, okay? This next row here, it's P1, but it's in retrograde, so we're going to call it R1. It's P1, but in retrograde. Again, not R11. We're not getting the numbers from here. We're getting the numbers from over here. That's so important. I can't stress it enough. This next row is P3, but if you played it backwards, it would still be P3, but it's in retrograde, so we call it R3. Okay? The next one, P9 in retrograde, R9. P4 in retrograde is R4. Okay? P6 in retrograde, R6. P5 in retrograde, R5. P10, R10. P7, R7. P8, R8. And P2 is R2. Okay? I can't stress enough how important it is to get the numbers from this side. You don't take the numbers right here, because that means nothing, right? R6 right here has been transposed by 6 half steps. If you look at the original row, G sharp to D is 6 half steps, all the way through. F sharp to C is 6 half steps, not 4. If you called it R4, you would be implying that it had been transposed by 4 half steps, and it hasn't. That's not true. It's been transposed by 6. That's very important. I see time and time again somebody trying to say this row, and they call it R7. That's not R7. This is R7, right? This is R9. You get the number from over here, okay? The same holds true for I and RIs, okay? Here, this is the inversion of P0, and we call it I0 because it's the inversion of the prime form, and we have not transposed it by any half steps. But here, we've transposed it up by 1. Notice that there is 1 interval class between each one of these. We've transposed them by 1. So we would call this I1. The next one, this inversion row, we've transposed by 11 half steps. We call it I11. This one has been transposed up by 9. So we call it I9. So all these across the top are all I's. I2, I5, I4, I10. Very easy, right? Okay? And then the retrogrades of these is the exact same principle we just talked about. This is I1. In retrograde, we would call it I1, not 3. Do not put 3 there. it's 1. Okay? I11 played in retrograde is R I11. I9 in retrograde is R I9. Okay? I3 in retrograde is R I3. So you get the numbers from the top, not the bottom. I'm kind of putting the numbers as superscript. That's not anything that you have to do. I do that just to kind of make it easier to read. This can get a little bit messy and a little bit hard to read. So sometimes I put them in superscript or subscript or anything you can do. For instance, right here I'm going to put RI10. It can be very easy to accidentally read an I and a 1 as the same thing, right? For instance, RI1 kind of looks like R11, right? So just be really careful with your handwriting. I actually put the full, lines on top and bottom of an I. Usually I don't. Didn't do on that one. Just to make things extra clear. Okay, but that's the main thing about the labeling, and again, that's so important. Remember, your numbers come from these two sides, not over here. These are just the retrograde versions of these. So you get your numbers from here. These are the transposition numbers, not here. Okay? So, why does this matter so much? Well, when you analyze the music, okay, we'd come through here. So back to this piece of music we were analyzing. How we analyze it is by bracketing these notes and labeling them. So for instance, right off the bat here, I bracketed these first 12 notes, and now I can label it, that's P0. Okay? Next, I know it's a little bit hard for you to see, I can't zoom in on this program, but I'll hold these up here. Okay? The next note we have there, we have an A natural, and a G sharp, and a B flat, another A natural, a G sharp, a C, a G flat, a D flat, E flat, etc. Okay? So again, we have some notes that repeated themselves here, but it was just A and G sharp. Okay? So sometimes you do have some composers using things, being a little bit liberal with some of the rules. You're going to have to just get used to it and figure out, okay, what row does this look most like? Okay? So if we come over to our matrix here, okay, and you can kind of look around the matrix and see, is there anywhere that you see A and G sharp and B flat? Okay, so something I like to do is just kind of look around the edges here. Okay, here's an A, but it's not followed by G sharp or B flat, so it's not that. Look for A's. Okay, here's another A. No, that's not it. Okay. There's an A, B flat, G sharp. Oh, maybe. But it doesn't keep going, right? We need a C, and then we need a G flat and a D flat. That doesn't keep going, okay? It changes. So let's keep going. What about I1? Okay? So, in the music, we need A, G sharp, B flat. We had another A and another G sharp, okay? But then we had C natural. Then we had G flat, which is the same as F sharp. We had D flat. Then we had E flat. And then there's a D here, okay? Then there's a G, then E natural, then F, then B. It matches exactly. We had some repetition, that's okay, but essentially these notes right here match the notes that you would find in row I1, which means we took, or Luigi Dalla Piccola took, P0, inverted it, and then transposed it up by 1/2 step. And there's the row. Okay, let's keep going. The next row that we would find, let's just stay in the voice for a minute and see if these end up being a row. Now, some music, you will find that, these could all be a row, kind of jumping back and forth. We will look at some of that music. This one's pretty straightforward, though, and it actually keeps the rows separate in the voices, which is nice. So let's keep looking at this voice here. We're starting off with a B, and then we have F and E natural, we have G and D natural. Okay, so just look at the first few, and let's try to find a row that starts off with B, F, E, G. Okay, so just kind of, I like to just go around the edge and look for B. Okay, there it is. B, F, we're looking for E and G. That didn't work. Okay, keep going. Here's a B. B, F, E, G. Okay, so far so good. So it looks like RI1 may be this next one. Let's see. Okay, so RI1 right here. We have B, F, E, and G. Yeah, so far so good. Then I had a D. I had E flat, D flat, G flat, which is the same as F sharp. I have a C. Okay, and if I kept going here in the music, let's see. I have a G sharp and an A, but then there's B flat, G sharp, A. Okay, so we had a little bit of stuff out of order here, but he came back and nabbed it in the correct order. Exactly like he did right here. He essentially played this row backwards, which makes sense. Oops. Sorry. Which makes sense because this is RI1. The inversion of the prime form transposed up by 1/2 step, played in retrograde. Okay? Very cool. Okay, let's keep going in the voice. Okay, so we start off with an F sharp. We have F sharp, C, D flat, and B flat. Okay, so let's just look for those 4 notes first. F sharp, C, D flat, B flat. Okay, oh look, RI8 starts off with F sharp. We have F sharp, and then here's a C. Okay, so far so good. Well, and then we need a D flat and a B flat. That didn't work. Okay, so let's keep going. Here's an F sharp. Let's see if that works. F sharp, C, no, that's not working. That's not matching. Okay, let's keep going. Here's an F sharp. Okay, we could go down. F sharp, C, D flat. Nope, that didn't work. Let's go left. F sharp, C, D flat, B flat. Oop, this might work. Okay, so let's see if that matches. F sharp, C, D flat, B flat. Then we need E flat, yes. Then D, E, B, F, G, A, G sharp. It matched exactly. Okay, so this row right here is R0. It's the retrograde of the prime form, not transposed at all, just R0. Okay, cool. Let's look at and that ends the voice part, so let's look at the clarinet part now. Okay, we have G sharp, A, G natural, F, B, E, D, E flat, B flat, D flat, C, F sharp. That matches exactly P0. Okay, so we're going to bracket those, label them P0. Okay, and then look at the rest of this clarinet part. We start off with an A natural, G sharp, B flat, A, G sharp, C. This looks very, very familiar. Very familiar. It's I1 again. Okay? We have a little bit of stuff going out of order here with the repetition, but again, you're going to see composers do that. But if you look at the overall majority of these notes here, you'll notice that it matches row I1 here. So we could bracket that and label it I1. Okay? And there it is. So let me show you where I analyzed this already, and I used some highlighters to make it a little bit easier to see. Okay? So, again, using this matrix is just a way for it's a way for composers to compose, and it's also a tool for us as theorists to analyze. Okay? Something that's kind of cool about this piece, and this is my closing thoughts I'll leave with you, is look at the rhythms. Look at the rhythms here. You'll notice that even the rhythms are inverted. Not inverted, but played in retrograde. If you look at I1 versus RI1, for instance, notice we have 8th note, then 16th note rest, 8th note, 8th note, 8th note rest, quarter note, 8th note, quarter note. It's literally an inversion, or a retrograde, excuse me. I'm sorry I keep saying that. It's the retrograde both in rhythm and in pitch. Same with this P0 versus this R0. Notice that the rhythms match exactly. 8th note rest, everything. Pretty neat stuff. We got a little bit of some difference right there, but for the most part, there is a little bit of serialism of rhythm in this one too. Okay? Alright. So study